Hey there, Patriots. Welcome back to the front lines. This is Death Watch here to give you guys more intel so you can update your personal armory and fight back against the fake news media machine. And today we'll be discussing a meme that has been going around ever since January of 2023, right? Essentially, the first week of January is when this meme was, when I first noticed this meme. But this meme essentially encapsulates every single thing that I have been talking about regarding this whole new trend of trans women infiltrating feminism, the feminist movement, and are now being pushed up through the airways, right? Being more mainstream in how they essentially have taken over not only the feminist movement, but are now being pushed as, the new it thing to be a part of, right? Look at the whole drag queen um, fiasco that's been going on, right? Where gay men and trans women are being featured at kids events. They've been advertised as being family friendly, but yet when you look at the actual clips and videos of these family friendly events, it's nothing more than people wearing lingerie, doing BDSM and sexual stunts, right? And it's like, yo, this is not family friendly. This is clearly adult entertainment being marketed as family friendly, and people are bringing their toddlers and their kids to it. Yeah, that's weird. That's not cool, right? That's not cash money. This is child abuse, right? And these people should be arrested and charged as such. Okay, and when you look at all these other events, like say Dylan Mulvaney, who's now comes out, says I'm a trans woman, is now being featured on the Oscars red carpet, and also on Drew Barrymore. You have Lisa Thomas, who was a male, competed as a male swimming athlete the majority of their life. Senior year of college, decides to identify as a woman. It is now completely demolishing the women's swimming competition here in America, right? uh, a bunch of other crazy stuff that's been going on. And Transmaxxing, this meme pretty much shows you exactly why this phenomenon is going down. Patriotic Millennial says, 99% of, trans people are just transmaxing. By transmaxing, you can go from an undesirable incel to a desirable, beautiful Stacy. As transition technology becomes more advanced and affordable, many people will see this as a legit option rather than improve themselves, right? So let's look at this meme. You're a incel, right? You're a frustrated rightist you have you believe in frustrated rightist politics, right? You will never get a girlfriend. Destroyed personality to be more useful to a system that hates him. Okay, that system being feminism and all this. Again, feminism, from what I've been talking about in my past videos, has been doing nothing but attacking men and masculinity, saying that it is toxic, that it is evil, that you are part of the patriarchy, and you need to internalize feminism. You need to internalize your feminine side and disregard and destroy your masculine traits. Okay, because other than that, you're toxic, or you're a evil right winger, right? And so, what do they say about you when you actually transition? Well, you essentially are one of the most oppressed minorities. Women and leftists will love you. Okay, your authentic happiness. You're actually special and worth remembering. You're on the right side of history, right? You have massive friend groups of transitioners and cis women. Okay, so you go essentially romanticizing the idea of, yes, you're a male incel. If you transition to become a woman, you'll be loved by everybody. You'll be on the right side of history. You'll have more friends and a more successful sex life. Okay. The weird thing is, this has been, this meme was going alongside the 80s dark fantasy film meme, which essentially it's the exact opposite, right? Back in the day, you had movies like Conan the Barbarian with Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Muscular, heroic, showed all the qualities of what a true masculine hero is. Same thing with Masters of the Universe, the He-Man live action movie, right? Same type of thing. These are male actors who are bodybuilders, who go out in they go to bodybuilding gyms in order to get fit and muscular for these roles, right? Now we have the exact opposite of these type of qualities being shown in films, right? But going back to the transmaxing meme, right? The from Pirate Wires, transmaxing, the incel to trans women pipeline. Why a community of depressed young men have nothing to lose is convinced the only way out of their misery is gender transition. Imagine you're a depressed young man in a developed country. Maybe you work long hours for low pay. Maybe you're unemployed. When you were in school, you didn't fit in with other boys. Girls acted like you weren't even there. You spend most of your free time playing video games and posting with online friends you never met in real life. You rarely have, any relationships without paying for it. You consider, well, I'm not gonna read that part. Well, you consider, deleting your save file, as they say. Uh, to the left, you're a dread, a woman hating incel with violent tendencies. To the right, you're a degenerate person, degenerate, weak virgin who struggles to impose himself on the world, right? So again, yeah, but most of this comes from, again, feminism, right? Feminists are the ones who have kind of invaded male spaces and invaded kind of like the geek world in order to push the idea that if you're a group of men and you don't have any females anywhere near you, well, you're part of the problem. You're you're part of the patriarchy trying to put women down and all this other crap, right? You're making your exclusive male spaces in order to attack women and probably be evil and racist in your groups, right? It's like, no, none of that was happening, right? And again, all this comes from third wave feminism attacking men. So why wouldn't you want to identify as a woman? Why wouldn't you abandon your masculinity and you know get rid of all those negative stereotypes thrown your way, right? This individual called Finister kind of does that, right, in a way where if you comb through their right, I went through a little bit of their posts. They went, I think there was a trend. They trended on Twitter for like a few minutes last week because of this picture right here with Belle Delphine. But essentially, Finister is a individual who is transmaxing in a way, right? They are somebody who openly shows that, yeah, I am somebody who kind of passes as both as a male and a woman, right? They are a biological male, but can pass as a woman, and they're showing that, hey, my life is sweet. Look at me. I'm now with Belle Delphine. How can a person, how can a trans person like me end up in a situation like this, right? Kind of glorifying it, right? Glorifying it, sexualizing it, and saying that, hey, look at me. I can pass as both a male and a woman, right? My life is sweet. So again, you're a person in this type of situation, and you see people like Finister here, right? You see people like Dylan Mulvaney, another person in 2020 who comes out as trans, as a woman, and are now getting pushed out into the limelight, right? We covered the last video I did where we talked about Dylan Mulvaney beyond Drew Barrymore. They did a interview with a outlet where they openly admit that, hey, I am a kissless virgin. I'm being featured on the red carpet of the Oscars. I'm being pushed out into the limelight, right? Going to all these events. I'm now famous. Why aren't men hitting me up in my DMs, right? Why am I still a virgin, right? Why am I still not being, nobody's trying to date me or anything like that, right? So again, these people admit that before they were probably just an average male, no real conquests of their own, no real dreams of their own to really to show, right? Nothing that they haven't really accomplished anything in life. But then as soon as they identify as a woman, they're now being pushed into the limelight. They're now being pushed into the spotlight. They're getting all these awards. They're getting invited to all these exclusive events. Dylan Mulvaney is now sitting down, has sat down with our president in order to push for, trans kids to have, for children who feel like they are gender dysmorphic to get surgery and all this other hormone therapy replacement, right? Right? They gone from being a male, just another nobody average person, to identifying as a trans woman, getting famous instantly on TikTok, and are now being featured, talking to our president, talking to all these other celebrities, right? Why wouldn't you, right? If you're a male in the exact same situation as Dylan Mulvaney and a lot of these other people were, Leah Thomas, again, didn't have any real, was at the bottom of the male swim team, right? When they were still a male, they were at the bottom of the male swim team. They weren't really a top athlete. All of a sudden, they identify as a woman. Now they're the #1 female swimmer in the country. Why wouldn't you want to be a woman? Why wouldn't you want to abandon your masculinity and identify as a woman, right?
I am Eloise. I am 6. I'm a city child. I live at the Plaza Hotel, which is huge and wonderful and très elegant, especially at Christmas time.
Right? So, this is kind of a weird video here where, Dylan Mulvaney is here like, oh, look at me prancing around as a girl with a 6-year-old voiceover, right? Ian Miles Chung says it wouldn't be normal for an adult woman to pretend to be a 6-year-old girl. Why is this acceptable? Again, all this crap is being pushed into the mainstream as acceptable, as the new norm, and in some ways as something to aspire to be. Right? Jill Biden awarded a trans woman Courageous Woman of the Year. Okay, the people, you got trans women, right? You had other trans women who are being featured as Miss Utopia, winning beauty pageants, right? Like, what's going on here, right? And they're clearly not the hottest woman in the actual competition, but they're being featured as being courageous, brave, and winning awards for their bravery and stuff like that. So clearly, it's being pushed as the new normal. And if you are a male who sees yourself as a loser, why wouldn't you want to? Again, Transmaxx, identify as a woman, and now you're getting all these awards. You're supposedly your life then all of a sudden just improves, right? It's just weird. But again, going back to the articles of feminism, feminists attacking men. Okay, this is from 2021. This person is supposed to be a psychologist, saying that, hey, these are the kind of common traits that a toxic masculine person will have, right? Traits of toxic masculinity include themes of mental and physical toughness. How's that bad? Aggression, right? Being aggressive means, in some cases, there's a difference between being a bully and being aggressive, being somebody who is, straightforward, upright, and saying, hey, this is what I believe, this is what I think, and you're not letting people walk all over you, right? That's what being aggressive means. Stoicism, right? Somebody who is not, all emotional, right? Somebody, again, I like to use the kind of comparison of being in a burning house or being in a burning building, right? Do you want to be the person who's screaming their head off because a fire broke out with everybody else? Or do you want to be the person that's in the room being like, okay, hey, there's smoke, the fire alarm's going off, we need to figure out where the fire exits are, and get out of here, right? We need to single file, figure out where the exit is, and get out of here. Or do you rather just have everybody screaming their head off, pushing and shoving each other as they try to figure out which way is the exit and trying to save themselves? Which one do you want to be, right? Heterosexism, right? Or discrimination against people who aren't heterosexual. This can be, this is all progressive news speak here, heterosexism and whatever, right? All that means is, hey, you're straight. You're a straight male who is like, no, I'm straight. I know I'm straight. I don't want to have relationships with anybody other than a biological woman, right? Because again, when it comes to trans women, they like to sit here and say that, well, if you're a straight male and you therefore you like women, therefore a trans woman is a woman, and so therefore you should be attracted to a trans woman. And you're like, no, because I still think I know because you're a biological male. They'll sit there and label you as a transphobe, right? You're transphobic, and so therefore you are now displaying forms of heterosexism. Yeah, make that make sense to me. Self-sufficiency, right? You're self-sufficient, meaning you don't need anybody. You don't need to depend on anybody else, right? You can provide for yourself, and you can do things on your own. That's a quality that you need to have. Self-sufficiency, constantly relying on people and having the need for other people to provide for you and take care of you. What, like that just sounds like socialism, right? If you're not a commie, if you're not a socialist commie, then you're clearly a toxic male. That makes no sense, right? Only feminists. We highlighted these articles before. Dear men, stop working out. Fascist fitness. How the far right is recruiting online gym groups. Do you boast about your fitness? Watch out. You're unavoidably becoming right wing, right? If you're a leftist, right? If you're one of these leftist progressive males and you hear all these articles, hear all these people talking about, hey, Men who work out is toxic, right? Men who care about being physically fit and looking physically fit, you're a right winger, right? Hey, you better watch out, or we're gonna label you as the evil World War II faction if you don't settle down your toxic masculinity, right? Of course, you're gonna adopt all these negative connotations, right? If you're a progressive male, you're gonna sit here and say, "Hey, I don't want none of that. In fact, I'm probably going to internalize a lot of these qualities that are being pushed by these feminists, right? I'm going to start adopting a lot of these new terms that these feminists are trying to push. I'm going to sit here and say, hey, I don't need to be any of this, right? I don't need to be self-sufficient. I don't need to have mental and physical toughness. I don't need to be aggressive. I need to be more passive. I don't need to be stoic. I need to be more in my feels, me be more emotional, right? That's not good. None of those qualities are good to have. But if you're a progressive male, you're going to sit here and say, yeah, that's the way in order to make sure I don't get labeled as an evil right winger. I'm going to adopt all these newer qualities in order to be more of a feminist, to be more, what they call it, an ally to feminism and to all this other BS movements, right? And so, pandemic fitness trends have gone extreme, literally, right? And what they try to say here is, if you are a physical, you're into physical fitness, and if you're fixated on boxing and jujitsu, you're essentially like the evil World War II dictator, right? Because that guy believed that they could keep him, because he believed that uh, having men who are physically trained in martial arts, right? Believing they could help him create an army of millions whose aggressive spirit and impeccable trained bodies, combined with fanatical love of the fatherland, would do more for the nation than any mediocre tactical weapons training, right? So, and here they say it's caught the attention of intelligence authorities, especially in Europe, where various reports have noted the role of combat sports and MMA in radicalizing and promoting far right violence, right? So if you're a person that's into MMA, or because really what it is that people who are in, if you notice, right, this article came out in 2022. MMA, the whole UFC scene was very anti-lockdown. That's really all that meant. This is why they're really attacking it. When you looked at the MMA scene, they were very libertarian, right? Same thing with Joe Rogan. Why they started attacking Joe Rogan was because he was anti-lockdown. He was questioning a lot of the stuff that was being pushed during the pandemic, right? Not saying that I'm doing that, not saying that you should be doing that, not saying that, again, always talk to your doctors, your physicians, and everybody else, right? Somebody who's a medical professional, right? But because these individuals were in this space, right? Primarily in the MMA, people who were fitness buffs, right? People who were in the fitness MMA sports scene, where a lot of these people were very outspoken about a lot of stuff that we were seeing, and so of course they were all labeled evil right wingers, right? So just to again, just to kind of boil all this down, I just found it ironic that during the same time that this transmaxing meme was being pushed, at the same time you had the whole 80s dark, the AI generated dark fantasy film meme was also going on, right? As a complete black and white, uh, scene in the dark 80s fantasy film meme, you openly you see how they had very masculine features, right? Male characters back in that day were very masculine. They were buff. They were heroes. They were the men out in front fighting the evil, fighting the good fight, fighting the evil forces, either shirtless or slicing and dicing whoever was in their way. Showed all the good qualities of masculinity, things that you should aspire to be as a male, right? But now in today's era, the new Dungeons and Dragon movie, the writers openly say that they intentionally emasculate its leading men. Okay, while speaking with Variety, Daily, I think that's how you pronounce it. Daly and Goldstein discuss how Michelle Rodriguez Holga the Barbarian and Sophia Lillis Doric the Druid tend to engage in the front lines of battle compared to their male party members. That was not an attempt at wokeness on our part, Goldstein said. Daly elaborates, saying, "I swear to God, it wasn't. We like the Holga is the bruiser that does the dirty work for Egan, and he doesn't like to get his hands dirty. We also love emasculating leading men. Okay, again, a black and white to what used to be how fantasy films were created. Fantasy films had, it wasn't like always women are the damsel in distress, but it was men being soldiers, men being on the front lines. Uh, right, and you always in the usually the people who never wanted to get their hands dirty were always the villains, right? They were always the villains that kind of sat back on their drone and had their henchmen do all the fighting, right? And only when the hero finally defeats all the other forces did the main villain step up and say, "Okay, now I got to deal with you myself," right? So again, when you live in the current era as a male and you see all these old, all these old kind of like stereotypes, these old tropes in these past movies being labeled as evil and toxic and very patriarchal, right? Something that needs to be destroyed. Why would you still to this day want to be a man, right? Unless you're right wing, right? Because if you're a progressive, you're essentially don't want anything to do with this. You see it all the time, right? The creator of Avatar saying that my movie is here to attack masculinity as being toxic. It's meant to dispel toxic masculinity, right? These are clearly far leftists who are essentially internalizing these type of messages, internalizing these type of tropes, trying to become, who want to transmax, right? And then people like Finister, people like this is a clip of a bunch of from Myth Informed, right? 5 black men dressed as women complain about cultural appropriation is peak woke insanity, right? These people are giving stages, they're giving spotlights in order to become famous, become rich, and stuff like that, right? And when you're just a random average male who feels like a loser, you're being told that you're evil by mainstream feminism, right? In the movies, in the comic books, in the video games that you play, because these feminists have infiltrated all these different spheres of pop culture who are now pushing the same message over and over and over, right? You're going to start internalizing that message and say, maybe I should transmax. Maybe I should live my life as a woman because hopefully from what I'm being shown, right? From what I'm being shown from by Finister, what I'm being shown by Dylan Mulvaney going out, onto all these different Hollywood TV shows, what I'm being showed of all these trans women being allowed to compete in female sports, being allowed to receive awards, beauty pageants, and all this other crap, right? They're winning nonstop everywhere else. Why shouldn't I internalize the messages that feminism has been pushing down at me for the past years and now identify as a woman? Because hopefully then I can be accepted. Then I can find, my stride and, do something with my life, right? That's a terrible message to be pushing that to young men, right? And this is why I've always spoken out against this type of messaging, because I always been like, hey, this is essentially what they're trying to do. This is what they're trying to do. This is what they're trying to create. And then what it what becomes the end goal, right? What is the end goal for all this crap, right? How I say, because I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking about this a lot. This is a psyop. This is all one big psyop, because when you look at what China does, right, and how they're now trying to take over Taiwan, and how just possibly people are now scared that we might break out in World War III against Russia and China at the same time. What is China doing? What is Russia doing in order to possibly prepare or to deter themselves, their countries, from being taken over? Well, China bans weak men, right, from TV to encourage more masculinity in young men, right? In the Western world, we're attacking masculinity. We're telling men that it is evil to be masculine. It is bad qualities to be masculine, right? You need to be more feminized. You need to be internalize feminism. In China, who is preparing for war, they're saying, no, we need our men to be more masculine. We need to ban all the messaging and TV shows that are showing men that they need to be vulnerable. They need to be emotional. They need to be weak, right? No, we want more TV shows and video games and all this other content being pushed to tell men that you are a man. You should love being a man. You should be masculine, because that is what society needs from you, right? And so at some point, you got to sit down and say, this is all one big psyop. And clearly, the Western world is on the losing end of it, right? And it makes this is why I kind of sit down and I've always said that when it comes to the whole trans women taking over the feminist movement and kicking out the more radical feminists for being terse or whatever, I kind of sit back and I laugh at it because I like I said, this is the message that you guys have been pushing for years, attacking men, and now the men are identifying as women, and now they are taking over the feminist movement and kicking you guys out of your own movement, right? I find that hilarious. But where I start saying, okay, now, but where I draw the line and say, okay, when you guys start crossing this line, is when I'm going to start having a fit, and when I'm going to start speaking up and saying, hey, this is where you guys need to stop. Point blank, period. Right? It's when you guys are now openly trying to encourage younger men, right? Young minor men, in trying to sit here and advertise yourselves as family friendly in drag queen events and all this other crap, right? This is where I draw a line because now you are trying to openly encourage other young men to abandon their masculinity and try to identify with these type of ideas that is not good for society. It's not healthy for them to go under hormone therapy treatment, all this other crap. That's not healthy, right? You look to all these other countries in Europe where they have openly said that, yeah, we're not going to do hormone therapy for people under the age of 18 anymore. We're now going to start looking at more therapy, right? We're going to start trying to look into their minds and try to figure out what is the root cause to them feeling gender dysmorphic. What's the root cause to them feeling this way, right? You had Deborah So in a past video I mentioned where she talked to people who detransition, right? People who felt like they were gender dysmorphic when they were younger. They went through the process to get to transition, and then they figure out that their problems either didn't go away or that their problems are getting a lot more out of control, and so they figure out that, hey, I need to get to the root cause of why I'm feeling this way. And then it turns out that, it turns out under, Deborah So, who is a neuroscientist, she says in her book straight up that what she has figured out that a lot of these people are just gay. Some of these people are just gay. Some of these people are suffering from past trauma. They were probably abused when they were children. They are probably have, something, they're probably on the spectrum of autism or something like that. There's a lot of other factors that goes into why these people feel uncomfortable in their own bodies and why they feel that, hey, maybe the problem is that I just need to transition to the opposite gender and my problems will go away. And it turns out that didn't help them, right? But when we push this right here, this stuff right here, and having Dylan Mulvaney go on to mainstream networks, right, and talk and pretend like everything's a-okay and this is totally normal and people should view this as the most beneficial option, that's not going to be helpful. That's not helpful at all, right? It's just complete insanity, right? All you're doing is then telling these people that this is the most healthy way of doing these things, and then it turns out that it's not the best way, right? And again, going to Western, other like European countries, right? We always look to European countries to say, these people are the more socially advanced or more medically advanced than us because they have free healthcare and stuff like that. But then when these people say, oh yeah, by the way, we're no longer giving hormone therapy and what's it called, HRT, to people under the age of 18, that's when people leftists in America start saying, oh, well, we're going to ignore that part, right? It's like, no. You guys want to sit here and say, hey, we need to take more advice from Europe and how they do their medical research and stuff like that. Well, then they're saying, hey, minors under the age of 18 shouldn't go through hormone replacement therapy. They should instead go through like neurological assessment because it turns out that there's a lot more reasons as to why they feel that way than and it's not healthy for them to just immediately go through the hormone replacement therapy. We need to figure out the root cause to their trauma as to why they believe that they're gender dysmorphic, right? And it turns out that most of the time it seems to be most of the time that they are suffering from something else than gender dysmorphia, right? But again, people here in America, Nope, let's just ignore it because hey, look, I can now identify as a woman. I'm now getting awards. I'm now getting put in the spotlight. Look, it's all glam and glitter and all this other crap. And it's like, no, we need to stop advertising this. We need to stop pretending like this is the new norm. It's not, and we shouldn't be accepting this whatsoever, right? So again, this is just to try to solidify what I've been trying to talk about. What I've been the point that I've been trying to make over the past few weeks when I've been talking about this whole new recent trans movement that we've been seeing, this push for trans women to do whatever, right? Do whatever they are allowed to do, right? It's just we shouldn't be doing this, right? I need to put my foot down. We need to put our foot down somewhere and say, okay, enough's enough. This is not healthy for society whatsoever. Okay, and like always, stay safe, stay sane, be vigilant, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you, Patriots, on the battlefield.